Hello again.
Hello again.
This isn't our first chat at TechShare Pro. Sarah, for anyone in the room that isn't already familiar with who you are, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Sure. I'm Sarah Herrlinger, and I lead Apple's accessibility efforts.
Yeah, that's it, basically. Thank you so much.
In a nutshell, right there.
Just let that sink in. I don't know. Okay. So let's talk about accessibility. Let's talk about a very significant milestone that's coming up in Apple. You're about to reach 40 years of accessibility. Not many companies can claim to have a commitment to accessibility for that length of time and that depth and level of impact. So do you want to tell us a little bit about kind of what I would argue is a uniquely committed approach to accessibility for such an incredibly long time?
Yes, it is something that I am very proud of. We are very proud of. Just for a little bit of knowledge for everyone, our first Office of Disability actually started in 1985, which for context is 5 years before the Americans with Disabilities Act even came to pass. This was something that, was started by some individuals who were incredibly dedicated to the idea of building technology for everyone. And all the way up to the top of Apple, everybody agreed that it was something that we really needed to be able to do. And back in that time frame, we started building in features like sticky keys, slow keys, being able to flash the screen for the deaf community. We were doing all these things before people were even really thinking about them at other companies. And that consistent desire to be able to, to sort of have as a part of our DNA, you don't build for some people, you build for everyone, has been there since the start. And I see it every day in the company. It just really makes me proud.
Brilliant. And another anniversary then, I think that you've recently commemorated, celebrated, achieved another anniversary of your own. Do you want to...
Yeah, actually, about a week ago, I received my plaque for my official 20 years at Apple, doing accessibility. Thank you. Yeah, and I actually have been walking through the doors for about 14 months more than that. So I'm in terms of going through the doors of Apple, it's been a little over 21 years. But as an official employee and not a contractor, it's just 20 years now. So. That has been amazing as well. I can't really imagine a place I would have rather have spent my entire career. I think Apple, in many ways, because of its commitment to accessibility, has been an amazing place to be from the start. Everyone around me and everybody above me has said, keep doing what you do and do more of it. And I think in that element of the, the 40-year commitment and how it is a part of our culture, I've seen that every day. I've been able to create an incredible career at a company that deeply believes in accessibility and constantly wants us to be doing more.
I've mentioned this before, so apologies, but this is just so impressive. Tim Cook, CEO of Apple, on an earnings call once was questioned by an investor, why spend money on accessibility? And he basically said, if you don't think that money spent on accessibility is money well spent, then get out of our stock, basically, is what he said.
That he did.
It's absolutely amazing. So
that
highlights.
Was a jump up and down moment for me.
Honestly,
so,
that is unbelievable. So, highlights.
Highlights.
20 years.
Oh my gosh, so many highlights. There's a ton of product highlights. When you think about in that time frame, VoiceOver was created. VoiceOver on iOS was created. The ability to connect a hearing aid directly to a cell phone, any phone, we pioneered that. We did assistive touch on Apple Watch to support individuals who have upper body limb differences. Voice control, personal voice, doing voice banking on your device. I mean, we just have had just firsts one after another that we've been able to do, and really innovating in ways that are amazing. I mean, I've often said I think my accessibility engineering team is the most creative group of people in the world, and I would put them against any other engineering team in the world on anything, because I think their ability to think out of the box and to come up with amazing, innovative solutions is fantastic. But beyond that, the other thing in terms of those milestones and the things that I think about is just how over my tenure of being at Apple, we've been able to really create an army of people who understand that accessibility is a part of their job, whether it's in their job description or not. You know, when I get asked how many people are on my accessibility team, I will generally say I think it's the 170,000 employees that we have at Apple, because it really is so deeply embedded in our culture that we don't think about it just in product. You know, I give the examples of when we're about to launch something and we have an event, we make sure that the entire, you know, any video is made accessible. Mm-hmm. The event itself is made accessible. The invite that got sent out for that event is made accessible. You know, it is so deeply embedded in our culture now that everybody thinks about it as a part of everything we do. How do you support disabilities in everything that we do?
For every Apple event, you know, before you go live, you have these cool animations and the audio description is there. And I think, thank you. Yeah, I knew it would be. Mm-hmm. So I'll be able to follow the action along with everybody else. So yeah, brilliant. What about something that you're personally most proud of? Can you identify one or two things or one thing?
Yeah, I think one of them that I would say is our work in hearing health. And that started with being the product manager back when we did the original work with Made for iPhone hearing aids and worked with all the hearing aid manufacturers to create this Bluetooth protocol and convince all of them to put a little Bluetooth chip into all of their hearing aids to do that direct connection and really revolutionize the hearing aid industry. But now, as of this year, we're expanding upon that work within our own AirPods and doing a lot more work around prevention, awareness, and assistance. And, you know, it's in over 100 countries and regions thus far. Some, you know, we're still expanding this out. So some of these things that I'm talking about may be available in a certain country, but not in another as of yet. So we're still working through all of the pieces. But it's about being able to do, you know, prevention of hearing loss through using the AirPods to kind of keep loud sounds from getting into your ears in loud environments. Then being able to take a hearing test, a medical grade hearing test on your or through your AirPods in your iPhone, and in 5 minutes being able to understand what your hearing capabilities are. And then based on the information that comes from that, if you have mild to moderate hearing loss, being able to use your AirPods as hearing aids. And I think, you know, just the idea that there are over 1.5 billion people on this planet with hearing loss, being able to help those people have a better understanding of what kind of hearing loss they have and what are the tools that are available to help them, I just think is so fantastic. So I've really loved being able to do all the work we do with the hearing aid manufacturers and as well be able to, you know, now bring something to the world that's in the device that millions of people are carrying around in their pocket already.
This is an AirPods Pro 2,
yep.
And there's another one in my pocket. I'm using it to follow the questions and the time. I have hearing loss, and when you're blind, you know, the hearing is everything. And I had an audiogram. I had a hearing test at a audiologist, and I got my audiogram, and we looked at hearing aids, and $13.95 was one, $17.95 was another. We got out of the room, and my wife said, "Just go for it. You know, that's £13.90. No, $1,395, $1,700. Really, really. I mean, you know, it's specialist, very, very sophisticated. But this now, since several months, is a medically signed off, medical grade hearing aid. So thank you. For how much? £200. Yeah. It is EQing the world for me. So thank you. So 20 years, a long time. Anything that has changed in the approach to how you do things in Apple over those years?
Yeah, I think a lot of it really is just about the expansion of accessibility in everything we do based on people's awareness that it is something that's a part of everything we do. So, I think the moments I most love is where it becomes mainstream in the things we do. If you think about something like assistive touch and Apple Watch, I mentioned earlier, it's a feature that was built to support people with upper body limb differences, someone who might be an amputee. And when we first put out the watch, I remember getting a couple of emails from people who said, I love the watch, but if I have to answer a phone call or something, I have to answer it with my nose because I have only one arm. And by building this, we were able to create a system where we understand the muscle and tendon movements underneath the watch. And just by, clenches or pinches, you can drive the entire watch. And that has now expanded into the double tap gesture that is standard for everybody who uses an Apple Watch. And so it's kind of been interesting to see over the course of this 20 years, accessibility is not something that just some people do or that's kind of done to the side. It is something that's embedded in everything we do, and it's continuing to expand and drive innovation within the company.
I would say eye tracking as well, or eye gaze that's been built into recent software updates. A hugely expensive add-on before then. So, yeah.
Eye tracking is another great one. Yes, there are really amazing third-party eye tracking solutions that can be incredibly helpful for people, but they do tend to be, in some cases, expensive and unattainable by people in parts of the world. And so with iOS 18 and iPadOS, we have now built eye tracking directly into the operating system. So you can control the entire device with just your eyes. If you are someone for whom that is your one option to be able to connect, that's hugely powerful. So it's another way that we're trying to just make sure we build every possible feature directly into the operating systems.
Apple Intelligence, any kind of overlap with accessibility there?
Always, yes. Lots of things we've done with Apple Intelligence. And I think when you think about some of the disability areas, for individuals with cognitive disabilities, being able to use things like the writing tools to be able to simplify complex text or to be able to make text sound more professional, all kinds of things you can do to summarize and to really just proofread, make it a better piece of text. Being able to use things like natural language within being able to make queries. So, for example, in things like the Photos app, being able to say, I want just the photos of Aunt Claire crocheting with the kids. Really powerful for anyone to be able to pull things together, but for someone who's a member of the blind or low vision community, just being able to use that natural language query and get the information you want in photos is great. We've used it with speech to be able to support atypical speech patterns. So for individuals who have stutters or dysarthria, to be able to better utilize Siri in ways when they're using Apple Intelligence. I mean, all kinds of things that we've built in there.
We have lots of real-life accessibility professionals in the room here today. Can we leave them with any pearls of wisdom, or what kind of message can you leave to people who are as passionate about accessibility as Apple are?
Yes, I guess I often get people who just sort of ask me, "How do you do it? How is this something that's been so embedded in Apple's culture?" And I think it's really about just continuing the drumbeat and convincing people within the company why it matters. And I think that to me it's not a compliance issue, it's a human issue. And so I always encourage people when I talk to them to think about how do you get the people around you, whether it's the engineers or, all the way up to your CEO or whomever you're trying to convince. It's really about having them understand the human element of accessibility. I think, there's the idea of just writing someone a thank you note after they do work has always been beneficial to me. Sharing the stories. If a team builds something for us and then I get a note from someone who says, I really love what you did, that changed my life, I make sure that information gets back to those engineers so they understand the profound impact they had on people. And I think when you can really bring that forward and show people the human impact of what they're doing, it is so much more powerful than saying because I said so or because a law says so or any of that. Do it because it's the right thing to do, and people respond.
Great. So apologies for getting emotional. I can't help getting emotional when talking about what Apple means to me as a disabled person. So any final comments before we sign off?
I think that's probably it. But if you want, as the emotional Apple user, please feel free. So.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
We'll need to get a mic. Sorry.
They could shout and I could repeat it.
Hi, thanks very much. Just want to echo a lot of what Robin's already said. I'm also a blind user. Lost my last bit of vision about 5-6 years ago. Starting to learn accessibility as a business format, trying to learn it all, get my head around CSS, all the technical stuff. Just want to say, again, amazing what Apple have done. I am an Apple fanboy, always have been. But aside from that, it is really impactful what you've done. The new system there with the AirPods, I just think is incredible. It's a huge disruptor, and it's going to have such a huge impact for so many people. Just even to get people to an audiologist, if nothing else. Amazing. Just a couple of little kind of questions, if I can. Will there be anything for Siri, server-side Siri? Just thinking for so many people, especially disabled people, that can't afford the high-end phones that are going to have, obviously, 8 gigs of RAM, latest CPUs to run on board Apple AI. Will there be any plans to look at rolling out server-side so people with older devices, more affordable devices, can at least access the newer features of Siri that is far, far superior for, questions, etc. And then also any hints at the SE4, because the SE lineup have been brilliant phones and the watches, again, to get people in the doors, that people that can't, maybe not working and cannot get their self, into that ecosystem. Thank you.
Yes. Well, thank you for your kind words. Let me start off there. I appreciate all that you said. And I'm very glad that our technology has been able to be a support for you. In regards to what happens in the future, I can't really speak much to what will come. That is a standard Apple thing that we like to talk about, what's out at the moment. But it is good feedback. So I'm happy to take it back to the teams and let them know that that's something that is of interest. So thank you for that.
I'm going to be really cheeky and predict an SE4 in April. So brilliant. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you.